Welcome to the Read Charlotte Explicit Instruction modules. My name is Dr. Preston and I'll be your host for today. As an evidence-based practice, explicit instruction is an effective way to teach skills and concepts, especially when teaching children to read. Explicit instruction includes multiple components that we organized as 8 practices teachers can use to improve literacy instruction. When using explicit instruction, teachers have a clear purpose, teach concepts explicitly, use models to teach concepts, provide examples and non-examples, keep instruction engaging, offer consistent feedback, provide multiple opportunities to practice, and scaffold instruction. In this series, we will provide opportunities to learn about and interact with each of the explicit instruction practices. We hope these modules become a resource for you as you begin to teach more children to read using explicit instruction. This module will focus on engaging instruction. We'll talk often about a concept called active student responding, or ASR. By the end of this session, you will be able to choose a strategy to increase student engagement to use in your classroom and note when to use it. Let's jump in. To get at the importance of engaging instruction, we need to get a better idea of what instruction looks like throughout the day. There are many ways to look at the amount of time for instruction in a program. If we think about a full day or program time as a huge target with a bullseye for getting students to respond, we can think of time divided up into 3 main categories. First, we have the time scheduled for instruction. That includes how long a program is, how much time is dedicated to reading, and how much instruction actually happens. Then, we can look at how much time has teacher-student interaction. This includes the amount of time the student is on task, how engaged students are, and how much time the teacher provides to respond. But the one we are most interested in is called active student responding. This is the center of the bullseye and counts how often students have a chance to observably respond to instruction. Here we are looking at how many times did a student say an answer out loud, solve a problem, circle a response, write something down, or do something that we can see to respond. In active student responding, we move from passive interactions like thinking, silent reading, where we can't actually see or hear what is happening in the student's head, to looking for an action that shows the students physically responding. The more time we can spend getting students to respond, the more time they are engaged in interacting with instruction. Our goal is to make that center bullseye larger. Research links using active student responding techniques and practicing with high levels of mastery to stronger achievement. How do we do this? Great question. We'll go through some simple active student responding techniques in this module. Types of active student responding, also known as ASR. Active student responding is a term to describe actions we can visibly see from students. Things they write, say, touch, color, point to, move, build are all types of ASR. We will focus on these 4 research-based strategies of ASR: unison responding, guided notes, numbered heads together, and partner reading. In the module on practice, we provide an in-depth look at the unison responding strategies of choral responding and response cards. We will do a quick overview here, but please review the module on practice for further information. Unison responding is an alternative to calling on one student at a time. As the name implies, all students respond together in unison. In choral responding, the teacher asks a question and all students answer out loud together. In response cards, the teacher asks a question and students either write down their answer on a small whiteboard or choose the answer from a card. Strategies for taking notes during class are not often taught in school. Guided notes provide students with teacher-prepared handouts on the content to guide students through the lesson. There are spaces on the handouts to fill in responses, keywords, facts, relationships. Guided notes support more effective note-taking. If you printed off the guided notes for this section, you are using a version of guided notes yourself. Numbered heads together. When students work in groups, it's possible for some students to be more engaged, while another student may not fully participate. To get all the students working, Numbered heads together requires each student in the group to participate. The teacher gives the class a problem to work on in groups. Each student must be able to explain the answer and how they got their response. The teacher randomly calls a group letter and a student number to pick the student to explain. What makes this work is that the students from each group do not know who will be called on, so everyone must know how they got their answer. It's a little easier to see this visually. Students are put into 3 groups with 4 to a group. Each group is given a letter from A to C, and each student is given a number 1 through 4. After the groups are done, the teacher randomly calls a group letter and pulls out a student number, and that student needs to explain the response and how their team got to that answer. So the teacher might say, Group B, Student 3, and that student has to share. Then it might be A4, and so on. Partner reading is just what it sounds like. Students are put into pairs and they each take turns reading a passage to help improve reading fluency and comprehension. One partner reads and the other listens, making note of positives and errors. The listener shares notes with the reader and they switch. There are variations for partner reading, but putting students together to read a passage is an effective way to keep the entire class engaged. Partner reading requires teachers to know their students' reading levels in order to partner strong readers with struggling readers. It also helps to determine the procedures for feedback and practice ahead of time. While partners are reading together, the teacher can pull a student one at a time for a repeated reading exercise with the teacher. We just described a few research-based strategies for increasing engagement in your classroom. Other methods include adding more writing opportunities, like a think-write pair share, to your day. The more all students are actively engaged, instead of waiting on a single student to answer, the more they are learning. Thank you for engaging in our explicit instruction modules to strengthen your literacy practices. As you know, explicit instruction is an effective way to teach kids to read, especially kids who are already struggling to read. We hope you continue to explore the rest of our modules on explicit instruction. And of course, happy teaching!